I paid for my husband's degree, took on a second job so he could focus on his future. When he graduated, he threw a party and gave a speech. I couldn't have done this without the woman I love, he said, then pointed to a woman in the crowd I didn't recognize. Everyone looked confused. So did I. Later that night, he confessed, I didn't think you'd make it this far with me. The next day, he found the storage unit I'd rented. It was empty, just like his bank account. We met in Sacramento. I was 27, working as a dental assistant at a small family-owned clinic off Freeport Boulevard. Nothing fancy, but it paid the bills. I'd been on my own for a while, lost my parents young, raised by my aunt who left me her apartment when she passed. I didn't have much, but it was mine. I worked hard for everything. He was 24. I met him at a friend's backyard barbecue. He was working at a gym part-time and said he was planning to go back to school. Something about the way he talked made me feel seen. Like my life was waiting to start, and he'd be the reason it did. He told me he wanted to be a physical therapist. Said he had big goals, just didn't have the right support system. I guess I decided I'd be that support. We dated fast. He moved in within 4 months. Married at the courthouse less than a year later. My friends called it rushed. My sister said I was being used. I didn't listen. I loved him. Once he started school, everything changed. He quit the gym job. Said school was too demanding and he needed to go all in. I picked up a second job waiting tables 3 nights a week at a sports bar downtown. That's when my real schedule began, dental assistant by day, waitress by night, and still doing all the housework in between. He'd tell me I was amazing. That one day we'd laugh about these early struggle years. He said I was his reason, his rock. I believed him. I'd wake up at 5:30 to get ready for work. He'd still be in bed. Some mornings I'd come home past 11 p.m. and he'd be playing Xbox or napping. I didn't ask questions. I figured he needed the rest. I made him flashcards. I proofread his papers. I bought him textbooks and paid his tuition when his financial aid didn't cover everything. 3 years passed like that. The night before his final clinical exam, he cried. Told me he couldn't have done it without me. That he owed me everything. I held him and told him I'd always be proud of him. I meant it. A few weeks later, he graduated. He wanted to throw the party himself. Said it was his treat for me, for all the support. I was touched. He told me not to worry about anything, just show up. Wear that dress I like, he said. You'll be the queen of the night. The party was at his friend Logan's house. Big place. Fancy setup. I was surprised. There was a rented tent in the backyard, string lights, catered food, a small bar, even a damn DJ. He really went all out. I showed up around 7 p.m. wearing the same dress I wore to our courthouse wedding. I thought it would be a sweet full-circle moment. I barely got a hello from him when I walked in. He was working the crowd, laughing, shaking hands. I didn't mind. It was his big night. Then he got on a step near the pool and tapped his glass for attention. Everyone turned to look. He raised his glass. I just want to say something real quick, he said. This night means everything to me. And there's one person who made all this possible. I couldn't have done this without the woman I love. She supported me, believed in me, stood by me every step of the way. I was smiling. My heart was pounding. I was waiting for him to say my name. Jenna. I froze. Everyone looked around. Some people clapped awkwardly. A few turned to look at me. My face must have looked blank. Then I saw her. She was standing near the bar. Long blonde hair. Tight sundress. Maybe mid-20s. Holding a champagne flute and smiling like she'd won a prize. My hands were shaking. I didn't say anything. I just stared at her. At him. At the people trying to figure out what the hell was going on. He kept talking, thanking people. But all I heard was static. I walked out quietly. No scene. No yelling. I didn't even cry. When I got home, I sat in the dark. I waited. He came back around 1 a.m., smelling like liquor and cologne. I was still on the couch. He looked surprised to see me. "You left early," he said, like I was the one who'd done something wrong. "Who is she?" I asked. He shrugged. Like it didn't matter. Then he said it, "I didn't think you'd make it this far with me." That sentence knocked the air out of me. Like I'd been holding up his world and he was just waiting to let me fall. I nodded. Said nothing. Just went to bed. He had no idea what was coming. What he didn't know was that for the last 6 months, I'd been preparing. I noticed hotel charges on our joint account. Late-night study sessions that didn't add up. He changed his phone password. Hid his laptop. He'd started dressing better, spending more, and coming home less. So I opened a new checking account. I rerouted my direct deposit. I sold off extra things, my jewelry, the second car I bought for him, even some furniture. Quietly, carefully, I moved money and essentials to a storage unit I rented on the edge of town. I waited. I smiled. I cooked his meals and folded his clothes while I slowly erased my name from our life. The next morning, while he was still asleep, I made my move. I took the last of my things. Emptied the joint account. Left the keys on the kitchen counter along with one note, "You made it. Now stand on your own." When he woke up, I was gone. So was the furniture. The TV. The plates and silverware. The car. Even the Wi-Fi router. He couldn't even play Xbox. And the bank account? Empty. That afternoon, he called me 6 times. I didn't answer. He showed up at my clinic the next day. My boss had security walk him out before he even got past the waiting area. But that wasn't the best part. Turns out, Jenna, the woman he thanked in front of everyone, didn't know I existed. I found her on Instagram. Sent her a message with photos. Screenshots. Bank statements. The whole truth. She broke up with him. Publicly. Loudly. And she told his school, too. Apparently, she was involved with a faculty member and filed a complaint about his dishonesty. He lost his job offer from a local rehab clinic before his first day. Now he's back at Logan's, sleeping on a futon in a garage that smells like cat pee. I'm not done. 2 weeks after I disappeared from his life, I got a letter in the mail. It was from his lawyer. Apparently, he was trying to claim marital support since I had been the primary breadwinner during the marriage. Said he'd grown accustomed to a certain standard of living and I'd financially abandoned him. I laughed when I read it. Not because it was funny, but because of the nerve. He was the one who cheated. Lied. Took me for granted. And now he wanted alimony? My lawyer, yes, I had one lined up already, told me not to worry. We had evidence. Receipts. Witnesses. I even had screenshots from texts I pulled off his old iPad when he forgot to log out. Conversations with Jenna. And with another woman named Lexi. Yep. There was a third. But that wasn't the twist. That was just expected at this point. The twist came a few days later. Jenna messaged me again. She apologized, again, but this time, she said something that changed everything. I didn't want to say this earlier, but I think he's been using my name for loan applications. I just got a call from a debt collector about a $7,000 private loan. He had access to my documents when we were together. Said it was for some internship paperwork. I froze. Then I remembered, his phone call, maybe 2 months before the graduation party. He was stressed, said he needed a little more cash to secure an out-of-state clinical placement. I told him we couldn't afford it. He said he'd figure it out. Turns out, he did. He used Jenna's info. She showed me the paperwork. The address listed was our apartment. The email? His. That was fraud. She was already talking to a lawyer. So now he had me, Jenna, and the state of California circling. But I still wasn't done. Remember the second car I sold? It was in my name. I had kept the title. I filed it stolen, because technically, he'd taken it without permission. Cops recovered it 2 towns over, beat up, rims gone. Insurance paid me out. He was left without a ride. Then I went further. I contacted Logan, the guy whose house hosted that godforsaken party. We'd never really been friends, but I had something he cared about. Money. See, Logan ran a side business, rentals, I think, maybe under the table. I offered to invest, temporarily, just to get him talking. He spilled everything. Apparently, my husband had been borrowing money from everyone. Saying I was sick, or in debt, or that our marriage was falling apart because of my spending. He used me as the excuse for everything. I told Logan the truth. Every ugly detail. Sent him proof. Screenshots. Copies of statements. Logan dropped him the next day. Now my husband, soon-to-be ex, is jobless, broke, carless, and sleeping on someone's cousin's couch in North Highlands. But I'm not stopping. He tried to take everything from me. My money. My name. My trust. My life. Now, I'm taking his future. 3 weeks after Logan cut him off, I got a DM from someone I didn't recognize. A woman named Carrie. Her profile picture was just a dog. No posts. Private account. But her message was short and sharp. I think we both have the same problem. I ignored it at first. Thought maybe it was spam or some random drama seeker. But then she sent another one. This time with a photo. It was a picture of my husband, well, soon-to-be ex, at a coffee shop with a woman who looked vaguely familiar. She was kissing him on the cheek. And the timestamp? 3 months before he graduated. I responded. Turns out, Carrie was the woman in the photo. And the woman kissing my husband was her wife. Her wife. That's right. He was sleeping with a married woman too. They met at one of his clinical rotations. My husband had told her, let's call her Alicia, that he was separated from his emotionally abusive wife and trying to rebuild his life. She rescued him, he said. Helped him feel whole again. Same lines he used on me. On Jenna. Probably Lexi too. Carrie had found out recently. Alicia finally confessed after Carrie found burner phone messages. They'd been in couples therapy when she dropped the bomb. So now Carrie wanted revenge too. We talked. Compared timelines. He'd been juggling all of us. Saying the same lines, rotating between our lives like a damn soap opera. But here's where it got interesting. Carrie worked in IT. Not just any IT, she worked in data compliance for a healthcare provider. And guess what? She had access to logs. Logs of him accessing Jenna's school records. Logs of him accessing Alicia's employee profile. He'd been snooping. Digging for information. Looking for weaknesses. He was probably planning something. More fraud. More lies. More leverage. I asked Carrie to hold on to the logs. She agreed. Said she wanted him to crash hard. Said she'd waited her whole life to watch someone like him finally trip over their own ego. I started building a folder. I sent copies of everything to my lawyer. Told Jenna to do the same. Told Carrie too. If he tried to claim marital support again, we'd bury him in paperwork. That's when I got a call from his mom. We hadn't spoken in over a year. She never liked me. Thought I was too controlling, because I expected her son to get a job and wash a dish once in a while. But this time, she sounded tired. Defeated. She asked if I knew where he was. Apparently, he'd borrowed money from her too. Said it was for lawyer fees and paying off shared debt so he wouldn't drag me through court. She wired him $2,500. Now he wasn't answering her calls either. I told her the truth. All of it. The cheating. The fraud. The other women. The loan in Jenna's name. Alicia. Carrie. The storage unit. The empty apartment. Every last ugly detail. She didn't say much. Just thanked me. Hung up. 3 days later, she called again. Said she'd cut him off. He always thought the world owed him something, she said. Now he'll learn. He's out of couches. Out of sympathy. Out of women. And he doesn't know what's coming next. But I do. About a month after the party, I got a letter from the state board. They were investigating him. Apparently, the combination of Jenna's complaint, the loan fraud, and Carrie's evidence triggered a formal review. It wasn't just about ethics anymore. It was about identity theft, professional misconduct, and possible federal charges. I didn't have to lift another finger. The truth did all the work. I moved on with my life. Slowly. I got a small apartment near my sister's place in Portland. I transferred jobs. The new clinic treated me like a human being. No gossip. No sideways glances. No pity. But I was still angry. That part lingered. Then I got another letter. Court date. He was fighting the divorce terms. Said he was entitled to half the remaining furniture value, half my separate savings, even the car I still drove. Said I abandoned him with no warning. I showed up in court, calm. Collected. I had the folder. Pages of bank statements. Credit card charges. Text messages. Emails. Jenna's letter. Carrie's logs. Photos. Screenshots. Voicemails. I brought everything. He showed up in an off-the-rack suit that didn't fit, bags under his eyes, and no lawyer. He tried to talk smooth, like he always did. Said I was vindictive. Said he was young and overwhelmed. Said I was punishing him for falling out of love. I didn't say much. I let the evidence talk for me. The judge didn't just dismiss his request. She reprimanded him. Told him he was lucky none of us pressed criminal charges. Told him if he filed another baseless motion, he'd be fined. Then came the best part. The judge granted me everything. The car. The savings. Even attorney's fees. He owed me $4,300. He tried to argue. Judge shut him down. I walked past him in the hallway after the hearing. He looked at me, hollow. Said, I thought we had something real. I stopped. Looked him in the eye. Said, you did. And you threw it out like trash. I left him standing there. 6 weeks later, I heard from Carrie again. He was arrested. Not because of me. Because of Jenna. The loan in her name? She pressed charges after the collection agency started harassing her at work. They traced it back to him. He had used her social security number to secure 2 loans, one federal, one private. Both were in default. Now he had court-ordered restitution and a pending felony charge. That's when it hit me. He was never going to grow up. Never going to take responsibility. He was always going to climb on the backs of women who cared for him until they broke, and then blame them for the fall. But I wasn't innocent either. I ignored the red flags. I let myself get walked on. I stayed quiet when things felt wrong. I thought love was sacrifice, no matter the cost. I was wrong. Love isn't sacrifice. Love is shared effort. And revenge? Revenge is just clarity with a purpose. I built him up. He tried to bury me. But in the end, all I did was step aside, and let him collapse under the weight of his own lies. I don't hate him anymore. But I'll never forget him. And he'll never forget what happens when the woman you thought was just a phase becomes the one who takes away everything you thought you were owed. I was the plan. He was the lesson.